So hi, my name is Adi Ben-Ari. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Applied Blockchain. We're based in London, started 4 years ago, and we specialize in building solutions for clients using blockchain technology, and we also develop some of our own product as well. So I guess the impact that the projects have brought, if they're corporate based, they're usually looking at how the business environment is likely to change as a result of this technology being available. That can mean one of two things. Either things are going to become more efficient, so processes become more efficient, transfer of value, recording of assets, payments, through the companies themselves becoming more optimized, or potential threats from other companies that might come along and do things better using the technology. So we help them to understand what's going to happen in our view. In terms of actual use cases, with the bigger clients, it's been we've done work in energy around energy trading. So anything around capturing agreements, pricing agreements, and then executing on those agreements today is being done relatively unilaterally. So each party has their own systems and then they settle. So things that are not being done through an exchange. And these things can be done more efficiently through blockchain technology. So the trading space, where our biggest project has been with Shell. Here in London, we've been working with the energy trading team, and we have a solution which they're using at the moment for derivatives trading. And that's live in production, being used by Shell here in London. That's probably our biggest project in terms of corporates. So the way we look at blockchain is really group security. Right? So if you've got something that's being stored, can be stored centrally, and that's fine from a security perspective, then you don't need blockchain. If you've got something that could benefit from a group together securing the history of changes, then that's really where blockchain comes in. And of course, layered on top of that, we're talking about sharing business processes, sharing record of asset ownership, and ultimately moving value around and payment. And when you bring all three of those together, that's really where we see the big value in the future. Some of the tools were around for years before the market really adopted them and took them on into mainstream. And with blockchain, it's even harder because it's a network. You can't just do this on your own. So you need other parties in there as well, and to be integrated in with the technology. So actually, it's even harder than some of those other technologies to put into place and to actually get the value. And what we see with a lot of clients is we give them the journey, we tell them where we think it's going, and then we advise them on the first steps. And a lot of the value might not be in those first steps. So it might be that they're starting with blockchain. What they've done at this first stage, maybe they could have done without blockchain, but they're setting the path for where they think this is all going. Seeing a couple of things happening. One is that we've seen some proprietary, a lot of different blockchains come out really. And for me, that doesn't really make a lot of sense as a technologist. If the value really comes with blockchain when more of us are connected, whether it's businesses or whether it's individuals or whoever's interacting. And a barrier to that is if we're all using different technology. So the more we consolidate the technology, the more we can all connect, and the more this all makes sense in terms of getting the value. So I think there needs to be much more consolidation of standard technology as opposed to what happened in the last 18 months, which is hundreds of different technical blockchain solutions coming out. That's one thing. The second thing is the challenge of data privacy, which in the enterprise space we've seen a first generation of through Corda, Hyperledger Fabric, Quorum from some of the big corporates. I think this is going to be superseded now with zero-knowledge proofs. So I think they take out some of the reasoning why those solutions are architected the way they are. I think some of that becomes redundant. And zero-knowledge proofs are actually a very sort of next generation, very interesting overlay on top of what happens on, I think, what should be a simpler blockchain layer. I mean, in general, zero-knowledge proof means that you can take encrypted data and make assertions about that encrypted data without draw conclusions about origins and history and so on, without seeing the details and without the whoever's provided you with that encrypted data revealing details about the data itself. And that becomes very powerful in this context. Where you've got a shared ledger, you've typically got other parties hosting that encrypted data. And so you want to keep it encrypted, you want to keep it secret, but under certain circumstances you want to be able to draw conclusions in order to be able to transact on it, run smart contracts and so on. And now this technology allows us to have both, to keep the data encrypted while starting to do more and more meaningful activity on top without revealing commercially sensitive information. So and that can be done now in a relatively platform agnostic way, rather than being privacy being completely built into specific blockchains, which also opens up potentially the ability to do things across chains as well. A lot of work in progress. So first of all, as a commercial company, so we've been building these solutions, we've been putting product out there and so on, and doing real work with clients. So we're not just sitting in a kind of isolated room. We're doing some real commercial work with clients. And many of the use cases that we've been presented with, including ones that are in production now, so actually being used by clients, don't require scalability, at least not initially, beyond what the current platforms offer. So I sometimes feel that more is made of scalability as a problem than is actually there. Of course, for mass consumer adoption or high frequency trading, all these types of use cases, and as we expect networks to grow, then scalability will become more of an issue. But we're also seeing we're seeing improvements over time. We've been in the space for 4 years, and we've seen things go from 10-minute transaction times to tens of thousands of transactions a second on standard hardware and standard blockchain platforms. Yeah. We've also been looking at layer 2 solutions, so-called layer 2 networks. So having networks of networks, and we do see this as the kind of, let's say, medium-term solution to scaling, because especially in the business and commercial space, we've seen lots of consortia and private networks. We do see these interfacing with each other and connecting at some point, and we see that in parallel to the work being done on the public chains as well. So really leveraging the same technologies and techniques, and potentially even connecting them all up together one day. Who knows? When I think about people coming into the space, I think about the people that we recruit and the people that we look for, we don't necessarily look for blockchain experience, ironically. We look for people who are great problem solvers, who love taking on a challenge, who love learning new things. We look for hackers, really. And then the blockchain learning and experience comes with the work, because we have all these projects that people are involved in, and they're all getting further and further. So we're hitting the real production problems, and what happens with forks, and how do you revert, and how do you deal with data issues and so on, and transactions that you have to, something happened over here and something else happened over there, and how do you deal with those real life scenarios. So we have all of that sort of real life school of learning in-house. So we're really looking for people who are just general great coders, hackers, problem solvers. And I think cryptography, of course, is an important area here. It's really what underpins all of this. And I think regardless of where blockchain ends up in the future, it might be the way we understand it now, or it might morph into something else. It's really cryptographic underpinnings of making our environments more secure, more independently secured. And so I think understanding cryptography well is really the basis for being able to do more in this space.